You know what most gardeners get wrong about weeds? They think the only way to stop them is pulling, spraying, or mulching every few weeks. But here's the secret the soil already knows. Some plants actually mulch for you. That's right, certain plants drop their own cover, shade the ground, and keep weeds from ever seeing daylight. You just have to pick the right ones. Now imagine this. You walk through your garden in early summer. The soil stays cool, the weeds barely poke through, and all you did was plant a few clever seeds last spring. Doesn't that sound nice? No more long afternoons yanking out crabgrass or thistle. No more spending money on bags of mulch every season. That's what we're talking about today. The plants that do the hard work for you. Welcome back to Rootly Gardening. I'm so glad you're here. Today, we're diving into something that can change how you garden forever. We're talking about 5 special seeds, plants that act like living mulch. Now, here's what that means in plain words. A living mulch is a plant that covers your soil, keeps it moist, and stops weeds from growing. It does all the good stuff mulch does, but it's alive. Some of these plants spread gently and protect the soil surface. Others drop leaves that form a natural blanket. And the best part? You only have to plant them once. By the end of this video, you'll know which 5 seeds can save you hours of weeding and watering. You'll understand where to plant them, when to sow them, and how they protect your soil all year long. We'll cover how each plant works, what climate it likes, how it behaves through the seasons, and how it plays with your vegetables, herbs, or flowers. You'll also hear some easy tricks to keep them balanced so they help not take over. So grab a cup of tea, get cozy, and picture your garden as a calm green carpet, soft, full of life, and free from weed battles. All right, let's get started with our first living mulch seed, the gentle but mighty white clover. You've probably seen it in lawns or fields, those little green leaves with tiny white blossoms. Don't underestimate it. This tiny plant can transform your soil and smother weeds at the same time. White clover grows close to the ground, spreading in a low, even mat. Each stem creeps along and sends out new roots wherever it touches soil. That means it fills gaps fast, like nature's own green blanket. Once it's settled, weeds barely stand a chance because clover blocks sunlight from reaching the soil surface. Now, here's why it's extra special. White clover doesn't just cover your soil, it feeds it. Clover belongs to a family of plants called legumes. These plants have a secret partnership with soil bacteria that live in their roots. The bacteria take nitrogen from the air, yes, the air, and change it into a form plants can use. So as clover grows, it's quietly adding free fertilizer to your soil. When you mow or trim it, the clippings release even more nutrients as they break down. Picture this, a patch of clover between your raised beds or under your fruit trees. The soil stays cool, soft, and rich. The weeds stop trying to compete, and you get a steady boost of nitrogen for your vegetables or berries without ever buying a bag of fertilizer. You can plant white clover in spring, once the frost has passed, or again in early fall before the first freeze. Sprinkle the seeds right on top of moist soil and lightly press them in with your hand or the back of a rake. They don't need to be buried deep, just a gentle touch of soil contact will do. In about a week, you'll see a tiny green fuzz covering the ground. That's your future mulch coming to life. White clover likes full sun, but can handle partial shade. It grows in almost any soil, though it prefers ground that drains well and isn't too acidic. Once it's growing, it handles dry spells better than you might think. The roots reach down deep enough to find moisture when the surface gets hot. Now, listen to this tip. If you're planting clover around vegetables, keep it trimmed low, around 2 inches tall. That way, it won't compete for light, but it will keep the soil shaded and moist. You can use scissors, shears, or just run a mower on a high setting. The cut clover will drop right back down as mulch. In winter, clover stays green in mild areas. In cold places, it dies back but leaves behind rich organic matter that feeds your next crop. Either way, it's doing something good for your soil every season. Clover also attracts pollinators. Bees love those tiny white flowers. If you leave a few blossoms, you'll have a happy hum across your garden all summer long. Just make sure to give your bees space if you're mowing. Now, before we move on, here's a quick note. Some gardeners worry that clover will spread too far. It can creep, yes, but it's easy to control. You can edge your garden beds with a spade once or twice a year, or plant clover in defined zones like pathways and under trees. It's a friendly spreader, not a wild invader. All right, so that's the magic of white clover. It's small, it's soft, and it saves you from hauling bags of mulch. It feeds your soil, protects your plants, and even helps the bees. Now let's talk about something a bit taller, something that not only mulches your ground, but also adds beauty. Meet our second living mulch seed, buckwheat, a summer hero that grows fast, fights weeds hard, and leaves your soil better than it found it. Now let's talk about buckwheat. This one's a true champion when it comes to speed and strength. Buckwheat isn't actually wheat. It's a flowering plant with broad, soft leaves and clusters of white blooms that bees adore. But for us gardeners, its real magic is how fast it grows and how well it covers bare soil. Imagine you've just cleared a bed after spring lettuce or early peas. The soil's warm, the weeds are ready to pounce, and you need something quick to fill that space. You scatter buckwheat seeds, give them a little water, and in less than a week, those seeds start to sprout. Within 3 or 4 weeks, the plants are tall enough to shade the entire bed. Weeds? They don't stand a chance. Buckwheat steals the light first. Here's how it works. Buckwheat's leaves are wide and form a dense canopy. When sunlight can't reach the ground, weed seeds stay asleep. They never even get the signal to grow. And as the buckwheat grows taller, its stems and leaves fall gently over, forming a natural mulch right on the soil surface. It's like having a built-in cover crop and mulch in one. Now, there's another reason gardeners love buckwheat. It's a soil softener. Its roots don't go very deep, but they're fine and fibrous, and they weave through tight soil, loosening it gently. If your garden bed feels a little compacted, buckwheat will start breaking it up without digging or tilling. And when you cut it down, it gives even more. You can simply chop the plants at the base before they set seed and let them lie where they fall. In a week or two, those stems dry out, the leaves crumble, and you've got a soft, nutrient-rich mulch ready for your next crop. Here's a timing trick. Sow buckwheat in warm weather, about a week or two after your last frost. It loves the heat, but doesn't like cold. It's a short-season plant, usually maturing at about 6 to 8 weeks, so you can use it between spring and summer crops or before planting fall vegetables. Buckwheat doesn't need fancy soil or much fertilizer. It thrives in poor ground where other plants might struggle. That's part of its charm. It makes the most out of little. And while it's growing, it also helps gather minerals like phosphorus from deep in the soil and bring them up closer to the surface, where your next plants can reach them. Now, listen closely to this part. If you don't cut buckwheat before it starts dropping seeds, it can reseed itself. Some gardeners like that, but if you want to stay in control, mow or pull it about halfway through flowering. You'll still get all the mulch benefits, but you won't get unwanted volunteers next season. The flowers themselves are beautiful and full of nectar. If you're lucky enough to have bees or butterflies nearby, you'll see them rush to those white clusters every morning. The buzz of pollinators around buckwheat is one of the sweetest sounds in summer. Think of buckwheat as your garden's short-term bodyguard. You plant it, let it cover the soil, keep weeds out, soften the earth, and feed your pollinators, all in just a few weeks. Then it bows out gracefully, leaving your soil richer and cleaner for whatever you plant next. All right, We've talked about tiny white clover and quick-growing buckwheat. But what if you want something that can handle cool weather, protect your soil over winter, and feed your garden in spring? Well, that brings us to our next living mulch seed, rye, the quiet winter worker that fights weeds even while you sleep. Now let's move into the cool season and meet one of the hardest working living mulches you'll ever plant, rye. I'm talking about cereal rye here, not the ryegrass that people use for lawns. Cereal rye is tall, tough, and dependable. It's like nature's heavy-duty blanket for your soil. Rye shines when the weather turns cool. You plant it in late summer or early fall, and while most plants are slowing down, rye gets to work. The seeds sprout quickly, sending out fine roots that spread through the topsoil. Those roots hold everything in place through fall rains and winter snow. And the green shoots stay alive long after other plants have gone dormant. Picture it, your garden bed's covered in soft green grass when everything else has turned brown. Beneath that green cover, the soil stays loose, moist, and protected. Weeds can't get started because rye has already claimed the space and the light. Even in freezing weather, it keeps your soil alive with gentle root activity. Now, here's the secret power of rye. It releases natural chemicals that stop weed seeds from sprouting. Don't worry, it doesn't harm your garden crops once it's broken down. But while it's growing, it sends out compounds that say, "No weeds allowed." It's nature's weed control without a drop of herbicide. When spring arrives, your rye will wake up fast. It can grow tall, sometimes up to 5 feet if you let it. But you don't have to let it get that high. When it's about knee height, you can mow or cut it down. If you leave the cut stalks on the soil, they form a thick, golden mulch layer. That mulch will break down slowly, feeding your soil as the season warms. If you're planting vegetables like tomatoes, peppers, or squash, you can even plant right through that mulch. Just pull a little space open, drop in your transplants, and let the rye residue keep the weeds down around them. The soil beneath stays cool and moist, and you'll water less often. Here's a tip. If you want to use rye as a full cover crop, mix it with a legume like hairy vetch or field peas. The rye protects the soil and fights weeds, while the legume adds nitrogen. It's a perfect partnership. One guards, the other feeds. Now, rye can be a bit strong-willed if you leave it too long. If it gets too mature, the stalks become woody and harder to break down. So the best time to cut it is when it starts to form seed heads, but before the seeds mature. That's when the stems are soft enough to make a great mulch layer. Rye doesn't need much care. It grows in poor soil, handles frost like a champion, and even improves soil texture over time. Its roots dig deep, helping loosen compacted areas. By the time you clear it in spring, your ground will feel lighter and easier to work. So if you've ever looked out in winter and seen bare, muddy beds, think about sowing rye next time. It's a simple habit that turns wasted space into protection and nutrition for next year's crops. All right, that's 3 powerful helpers so far: clover, buckwheat, and rye. Each one has its season and its style. Now let's bring in a plant that blends beauty and function. A cheerful, low-growing herb that covers ground, feeds pollinators, and smells wonderful. Coming up next is chamomile, a gentle plant that does far more than make tea. Now, let's talk about one of the friendliest little plants you can grow: chamomile. Chamomile, or chamomile. Most people think of chamomile as a tea herb, but in the garden, it's so much more. It's soft, fragrant, and quietly powerful when it comes to keeping your soil healthy and weed-free. Chamomile is what I like to call a gentle mulcher. It doesn't grow tall or dense like rye or buckwheat. Instead, it spreads lightly across the ground, shading the soil just enough to stop tiny weeds from taking hold. It's perfect for the edges of beds, between stepping stones, or under taller plants like tomatoes and peppers. There are 2 main kinds of chamomile you can grow: German chamomile and Roman chamomile. German chamomile is an annual. It grows for 1 season and then dies back. Roman chamomile is a perennial. It comes back year after year. Both kinds make that lovely daisy-like flower with the white petals and yellow center. But in terms of living mulch, Roman chamomile is the one that really does the long-term work. Roman chamomile spreads by creeping stems. Each stem sends down small roots wherever it touches the soil, forming a soft green carpet that gently smothers weeds. It's not aggressive like mint, so it stays where you plant it. The feathery leaves give off a sweet apple-like scent whenever you brush past. That aroma isn't just pleasant, it can also help confuse pests that rely on smell to find your vegetables. Here's a little trick I love. Plant chamomile near your cabbages, kale, or broccoli. It can help deter pests like aphids and cabbage moths, all while keeping the soil cool and covered. And when the flowers bloom, they attract beneficial insects like hoverflies and ladybugs, which feed on those same pests. Chamomile loves sunshine, but doesn't mind light shade. It likes well-drained soil. If your ground stays soggy, lift it a bit or plant in raised beds. You can sow the seeds directly on the soil surface in spring. Don't bury them deep, they need light to sprout. Just press them gently into moist soil and you'll see tiny seedlings within a week or two. Once it's growing, chamomile asks for almost nothing. A little watering during dry spells, and that's it. Over time, it forms a living mat that locks in moisture and reduces erosion. When you cut it back or harvest flowers for tea, the cut bits fall right onto the soil and act as mulch. It's like the plant mulches itself as you work with it. Chamomile also has a special gift. It can calm stressed soil. Gardeners have noticed for centuries that plants growing near chamomile seem healthier. That's because the roots of chamomile give off mild antibacterial and antifungal compounds. They help balance the tiny world of microbes that live around plant roots, keeping things in harmony. Now, if you want to collect the flowers, do it when the petals are open and bright white. Snip them off and the plant will keep blooming again and again through the summer. The blossoms dry beautifully for tea or for use in compost tea, a mild plant tonic that helps other crops grow stronger. By late fall, the foliage may fade, but don't worry. If you're growing the Roman type, it'll bounce back in spring. And even if you have the annual German kind, the dried stems will stay on the soil, forming a thin, natural mulch through winter. So, to sum it up, chamomile is the soft-spoken worker of the garden. It keeps weeds down, feeds pollinators, soothes your soil, and makes your garden smell like a peaceful meadow. You plant it once, and it gives back again and again. All right, we've covered 4 living mulches so far: white clover, buckwheat, rye, and chamomile. Each one has its own season and role, but there's one more I want you to know about. It's a little wild, a little bold, and absolutely unbeatable for hot and dry spots. That's sweet alyssum, the tough little flower that blankets the soil in blooms and blocks weeds with beauty. Now, let's bring some color and perfume into this mix with sweet alyssum. Alyssum. If you've ever walked past a bed that smells faintly like honey and seen tiny white or purple flowers hugging the ground, you've probably met this one. It may look delicate, but it's one of the toughest, most useful living mulches you can grow. Sweet alyssum grows close to the soil, forming a thick, flowering carpet. Its stems branch out and weave together, shading the ground so completely that weeds can barely peek through. What makes it amazing is how long it blooms, often from early summer all the way into fall, especially if you keep trimming it lightly. It's the kind of plant that makes your garden smell sweet and look alive, while quietly protecting your soil. Now, here's the secret power of alyssum. It loves heat, but it never gets fussy about moisture. It can thrive in the same sunny, dry patches where mulch tends to blow away or dry out. And once it's growing, it keeps the soil cool underneath, which helps your vegetables and herbs stay happy during the hottest months. I like to think of sweet alyssum as a living lace. Soft, beautiful, but strong in its purpose. You can plant it between rows of lettuce, around tomato plants, or along the edge of raised beds.
Wherever it spreads, it fills in gaps that weeds would otherwise take. When you sow alyssum, scatter the seeds on the soil surface in late spring after frost has passed. Don't cover them too deeply, just press them in gently. They need a little light to germinate. Within a week, you'll see fine, feathery seedlings. Give them a light watering every few days until they take hold. Once they start blooming, you'll notice something wonderful. Your garden comes alive with pollinators. Bees, butterflies, and hoverflies love alyssum flowers. Hoverflies in particular are great to have around because their larvae eat aphids, thrips, and other soft-bodied pests. So alyssum not only stops weeds, it guards your plants from pest attacks too. Another bonus is that alyssum reseeds lightly. That means next spring, you might see little sprouts in the same area without doing anything at all. You can let them grow or move them where you want them. They're polite little volunteers, never invasive or hard to control. If you garden in containers, alyssum is perfect there too. Let it spill over the edges of pots or window boxes. The trailing stems will form a living mulch that protects the potting soil from drying out too quickly. Here's a quick care tip. After a heavy bloom, trim alyssum back by about half. Don't worry, it will bounce right back with fresh flowers and fuller growth. Those trimmings can stay right on the soil to act as mulch. Sweet alyssum also makes a great companion for vegetable crops. Plant it in your peppers, tomatoes, or cucumbers. It attracts beneficial insects that help pollinate your crops and eat pests. And its roots keep the soil loose and airy. When fall comes, alyssum will keep blooming until frost. Even when it finally fades, the dry stems and leaves will form a soft, protective cover over your soil through winter. That's why I say alyssum doesn't just decorate your garden, it defends it. So with sweet alyssum, we round out our list of 5 living mulch champions: white clover, buckwheat, rye, chamomile, and alyssum. Each one brings something special to the table. Some feed your soil, some fight weeds, some guard against pests, and together they can turn your garden into a self-sustaining ecosystem. All right, before we move into the final section, let's pause for just a moment. If you're enjoying this video and learning something new today, go ahead and click that like button. It really helps the channel grow and tells me these lessons are useful to you. And if you want more easy, natural gardening ideas like this, don't forget to subscribe and tap the little bell. That way, you'll never miss a new Rootly Gardening episode when it comes out. Okay, now that you've learned about all 5 living mulches, let's move into the final stretch. In the next part, we'll talk about how to combine these plants, how to fit them into your garden plan, and how to keep the balance so your living mulch stays friendly and never overwhelming. All right, let's bring everything together now. You've met the 5 stars of our story: white clover, buckwheat, rye, chamomile, and sweet alyssum. Each of these plants can work beautifully on its own, but when you start combining them in smart ways, you can build a garden that practically runs itself. Let's talk about how to do that the easy way. First, think of your garden like a year-round stage. Some plants are spring performers, some love summer, and others take over in fall or winter. When one steps off the stage, the next one steps right in. That's how you keep weeds from ever finding an open spot. Here's how that rhythm might look. In early spring, your white clover starts to wake up. It covers the soil between beds and around perennials. Then, as the weather warms, you pull a few patches aside to make room for fast growers like buckwheat. Buckwheat takes the spotlight through summer, keeping the weeds down and the pollinators busy. When late summer rolls in, you cut down the buckwheat and sow rye right into that same soil. The rye grows through fall, shielding the ground through winter. Come spring again, you cut it back and let your clover fill in, or mix in some chamomile and alyssum for a colorful, living carpet. This pattern, planting one mulch after another, keeps your soil always covered, always protected, and always improving. You're not just blocking weeds, you're building a living system that feeds itself and your crops. Now, let's talk about balance. Living mulches are wonderful, but like all living things, they need space to breathe. You don't want them crowding your vegetables or herbs. The trick is to plan your zones. For example, clover does great between rows of corn, beans, or even strawberries. It stays low and doesn't compete for sunlight. Buckwheat fits beautifully in empty beds between crops. Chamomile and alyssum are perfect for borders, pathways, or under taller plants. And rye works best when you're giving a bed a seasonal rest or preparing it for next year's planting. If you ever feel like a mulch is spreading too much, don't panic. Just trim it back or cut it down. The cuttings will feed the soil as they decompose. You're never wasting a thing. In fact, the trimmings from clover, chamomile, or alyssum make some of the best mulch you can get. Soft, nutrient-rich, and easy to handle. Now, here's something most gardeners overlook. Living mulch isn't just about weed control. It also keeps the soil temperature steady. On hot days, the ground stays cooler. On cold nights, it stays a little warmer. That gentle balance helps roots stay healthy and active. It also keeps earthworms and soil microbes happy, and that's what truly builds rich soil. And let's not forget the beauty of it all. When your garden is full of living mulch, it looks alive in every season. Instead of bare dirt, you see green growth and flowers. You hear bees humming, butterflies visiting, and soil life thriving. That's a sign of a balanced garden, one that doesn't rely on chemicals or constant work. If you're just starting out, here's a friendly approach. Choose one mulch plant that fits your season right now. Start small. Maybe plant white clover under your tomatoes or sow buckwheat in an open space this summer. Watch how it grows, how it affects the soil, and how much less weeding you have to do. Once you see the results, you'll know how to expand it next season. Now, here's a quick care rhythm you can follow all year. In spring, wake up your garden with a fresh sowing of low cover like clover or chamomile. In summer, replace spent crops with buckwheat or alyssum. In fall, protect your soil with rye. Then, in winter, let nature rest while your mulch plants work quietly below the surface. By repeating this cycle, your garden becomes stronger each year, while your workload gets lighter. One more thing. Living mulch helps you save water. Because the soil stays covered, less moisture evaporates. That means your watering routine can be cut in half, sometimes more. You'll notice that even during dry spells, your plants look happier and healthier. So think of these 5 plants as your garden helpers. They don't just grow, they protect, feed, and balance the space around them. Once they settle in, they'll do more work for you than most tools in your shed. All right, you've learned the what, the why, and the how. Now it's time to wrap up with a quick recap and a few parting thoughts to keep your gardens thriving year after year.
All right, let's take a deep breath and bring it all together. You've just learned about 5 amazing plants that can save you from endless hours of weeding, watering, and hauling mulch bags. Let's do a quick recap so you can picture your garden's new rhythm. We started with white clover, the tiny but mighty soil feeder. It stays low, spreads gently, and gives your garden free nitrogen while keeping weeds out. Then came buckwheat, the fast-growing summer weed blocker that builds soft, rich soil and invites pollinators by the dozen. After that, we met rye, the winter blanket that protects your soil when everything else sleeps. It's strong, reliable, and fights weeds with its own natural chemistry. Next came chamomile, the calm, fragrant friend that soothes your garden and keeps pests guessing. It's gentle but persistent, adding beauty while quietly protecting the ground. And finally, sweet alyssum, the blooming blanket that fills sunny spots with color, fragrance, and hardworking pollinators. Together, these 5 seeds create a living mulch system that works through every season. When you use plants as mulch, you're letting nature do what it does best: cover, protect, and renew. Bare soil is nature's signal for weeds to move in. But when you keep the ground covered with living mulch, you're saying, no thanks, I've already got this space handled. Think about how much easier that makes your life. You spend less time pulling weeds and more time enjoying your garden. Your soil stays cooler in summer and warmer in winter. You save water, you feed the soil naturally, and you support bees, butterflies, and earthworms all at once. It's gardening in harmony, not in battle.
And here's something beautiful. When you walk through a garden full of living mulch, it feels peaceful. There's a softness underfoot, a hum of life around you, and the gentle sense that everything's working together. That's what real gardening is about. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. Are you gardening in a cool northern climate or a warm southern one? Do you grow in raised beds, containers, or straight in the ground? I love knowing where our Rootly gardening family is growing from. If this lesson helped you, give it a like. It really helps our channel reach more gardeners who want to grow naturally. And if you haven't yet, hit subscribe and tap the little bell. We share practical, down-to-earth gardening lessons every week. Simple ways to grow food, flowers, and soil the easy, natural way. Before you go, I've got a video I think you'll love next. Check out how to turn your kitchen scraps into garden gold. It's all about composting made easy, no smell, no mess, just rich soil food your plants will thank you for. Until next time, remember this: you don't have to fight your garden. You can work with it. Let these plants mulch for you, feed your soil, and keep weeds at bay. Because when nature does the heavy lifting, you get to enjoy the peace, the beauty, and the harvest. Take care, my friend. I'll see you in the next one. Out there among the green things, where the soil's alive and the weeds don't stand a chance.